What we're going to do here is do a little bit of pruning on a spring blooming azalea, just to demonstrate a proper pruning cut. And spring is a great time to prune any of your spring flowering shrubs. So
why is that?
Because most of your spring flowering shrubs produce their flowers on their old growth. So if you cut them back in the late summer or into the fall, you're going to cut off all the flower buds that have already been set, and then come the following spring you will not get any blooms. So generally speaking, when they bloom in the spring, you cut them after they bloom. For things that bloom in the late summer, you would typically cut them first thing in the spring before they start growing. And there are plenty of exceptions to this rule, but for today's purposes and with azaleas, which are a very popular plant in this area, spring pruning after they bloom is a great time to do this. So azaleas are very slow growing plants. We don't do a lot of pruning because they take a long time to flush out. So I'm just going to do what's called a heading back cut. This plant is getting a little rangy and a little tall, and it's also starting to encroach a little bit on this seeding area. So what I look for is kind of branches that overlap. You can see this branch here is kind of coming across and crossing with this branch. So I'm just going to do some very minor pruning, and these are branches that have already bloomed. So I'm just going to take it back to, you can see a branching point here, and just make my cut there. Now you can't even see the cut, which is really the object with good pruning, is that you want to try and hide your cuts and do it in such a way that they don't really show up. So that's one cut. You know, I could take this kind of rangy branch here that's also growing into the seeding area, and I could take this back again at a branching point, so I could bring it back here. I could bring it back further, but my technique with pruning is to always go very slowly and to take a look at what you're doing as you go, because once you take it off, you cannot put it back on.